So a few days ago, I was doing some research on lard and its origins because I wasn't sure what animal it came from, but that's besides the point. And this groundbreaking article written in 2014 came across my search.
Oh my god, honey, check out this article!
All right.
We're making lard.
Disgusting. I know. Now this article, which was written back in 2014, is definitely due for a debunking, with the author making claims such as, "Lard is healthy! Yay! Lard is a healthy source of cholesterol, oh my god!" We'll start with the first claim. Lard is heart healthy, and the study linked to back up this ballsy claim. So as we look at this study titled Meta-Analysis of Prospective Cohort Studies Evaluating the Association of Saturated Fat with Cardiovascular Disease, we can see this is a meta-analysis which was a combination of multiple epidemiological studies that required a 6 to 23 year follow-up with an average of 14-year follow-up between the participants of all the combined studies. The method of food tracking for the participants were 24-hour recalls, food frequency questionnaires, and multiple daily food records. Anyone see the flaw here? The participants were expected to track their entire food intake for an average of 14 years before follow-up. I mean, I wonder how well that worked out. Additionally, you're gonna tell me that every single participant accounted for every single ounce and every single piece of food they ate, even when they went to parties or restaurants for X amount of years based on the study that they were participating in? I didn't think so either. I guess that's why it's called epidemiology, right? This all seems so flawed. I wonder why. You'll see why in a few moments. So if we go to the conclusion of this study, our meta-analysis showed that there is insufficient evidence from epidemiologic studies to conclude that dietary saturated fat is associated with an increased risk of coronary heart disease, stroke, or cardiovascular disease. Score 1 for the societal proclaimed omnivores, right? Let's read a little further. However, the available data were not adequate for determining whether there are coronary heart disease or stroke in specific age and sex groups. Furthermore, there was insufficient statistical power for the meta-analysis to the effects of cardiovascular risk of replacing specific amounts of saturated fat with polyunsaturated fat or carbohydrate. Finally, nutritional epidemiologic studies provide only one category of evidence for evaluating the relation of saturated fat intake to risk for coronary heart disease, stroke, and cardiovascular disease. An overall assessment requires consideration of results of clinical trials, as well as information regarding the effects of saturated fat on underlying disease mechanisms. In other words, this is a bullshit study. It's flawed by design, as many factors were not accounted for as the study itself states. We already know dietary saturated fat and dietary cholesterol raise LDL cholesterol, which promotes atherosclerosis, which increases your chance for cardiovascular diseases, and this has been proven in metabolic ward studies already. Additionally, this is a cross-sectional study that is not suited for this type of testing. So why would these researchers do this? Well, this is probably why. This study was supported by the National Dairy Council. Do you think they would have a vested interest in telling people that saturated fat does not contribute to cardiovascular disease? Of course they would, since what they sell is primarily saturated fat and dietary cholesterol. But let's take an even closer look at that. One of the researchers, Ronald M. Krauss, was a part of the International Dairy Foods Association and a member of the American Egg Board. Of course he's gonna have a study to support saturated fat and dietary cholesterol as healthy as it supports his bias because it contributes to paying his fucking bills. This is what we call a dirtbag of the highest level. Alright, so we could throw out that study because as we've seen, or as I have shown to you, it is all bullcrap and funded by industry. So let's get back to the main article and let's check out claim number 2 that the author has made, stating that lard is heart healthy. The author of the article stated that low-fat, high-carbohydrate diets raise triglyceride levels, which is a risk factor for heart disease. Well, let's see what studies she cherry-picked to back up this claim. Now, I might as well just say this from the get-go. This study was funded by who other than the National Dairy Promotion and Research Board. And again, who do we find? R.M. Krauss, administered in cooperation with the National Dairy Council. So more bullshit. Either way, let's entertain it, because I'm gonna show you how these little weasels deceive people who don't know any better. So this study only had 11 participants, 6 that were considered to have normal levels of triglycerides in their blood, and the other 5 participants were considered to have high levels of triglycerides in their blood. So if we look at the design of the study, the subjects were put on 2 separate diets. The first diet only lasted for a week and consisted of 35% of total caloric intake come from fat. And they titled this diet the control diet, or it is known as the control diet, as the study states. So control diet, 1 week, 35% fat. Anyways, the second diet lasted for a total of 5 weeks, and it was titled the low-fat, high-carb diet because only 15% of total caloric intake came from dietary fat. Well, let's take a closer look at how the testers ensured dietary adherence of the participants. Frequent dietary interviews and inspection of returned food containers were used to assess subject compliance. Kind of like when you show your plate to mommy and daddy to show that you finished eating, yay! So as we can see from the study, these participants were not actually eating the food and in an actual like metabolic ward or something like that. They were eating the food, you know, as they went about their lives at school, work, whatever, at home. So that being the case, there's no way that the participants threw away the food that the metabolic kitchen provided, because people never ever lie about the amount or the types of food that they eat. Ever. Regardless, it doesn't matter, as this study tested blood markers after each diet and after infusing the subjects with leucine, lacetate, palmitate, glucose, and glycerol for a total of 16 hours. I mean, what in the hell does any of this have to do with low-fat diets raising triglycerides? I mean, seriously, when does anyone ever take an intravenous shot of leucine, lacetate, palmitate, glucose, and glycerol to a vein in their arm for 16 hours before getting their triglycerides or any blood markers checked? I mean, seriously, a simple blood test wouldn't suffice us after completing each diet. You had to inject the participants with all this crap. So this study has nothing to do with low-fat, high-carb diets actually raising triglycerides naturally. This study is not relative to the point that is stated in the article. Or maybe it's just another study that is purposely flawed by design with an agenda to demonize low-fat, high-carb diets because it is funded by industry. Shocker! So the top 2 studies that the author of this article linked are complete bullshit, and on top of everything, they were funded by industry. I looked at the other studies that were linked in this article, and honestly, they're not even worth mentioning. As you can see, the author of this article cherry-picked studies that were funded by industry to support a financial agenda bias rather than objective facts. Oh, you want to know who she is? I'll show you. Well, her name is Lauren Gearston. She's a nutritional therapy practitioner. What in the hell is that? So it's essentially an independent certifying body that made up a course known as the NTP course for a very small price of $5,400. You can make your own judgments on that one. So let's see what Lauren likes to cook.
Today I'm going to show you how to make 5-spice baked chicken thighs with a citrus pesto. So this is one of my favorite weeknight meals. I'm sure it will be added to your weeknight meal rotation as well once you try it.
Chicken thighs. Wonderful. Let's break that down real quick. So one chicken thigh with the skin contains 239 calories, 11 grams of fat, with 3 grams coming from saturated fat, and a whopping 182 milligrams of cholesterol. Damn, girl! Additionally, she's recommending you lightly grease the pan that is holding the chicken thighs with an oil of your choice and preheat your oven to 400 degrees. So I guess if I use coconut oil, it will be okay, even though 400 degrees is way past the smoke point of coconut oil, and free radicals are definitely gonna form in there. I mean, a little bit of free radicals didn't do much to the body except cause a little bit of cancer. Ain't that right, baby? So I think I've officially debunked this waste of an article. Now, I don't know what Lauren Gerston's agenda is, but what I do know is that she is spreading misinformation with publishing an article like this. Saturated fat and dietary cholesterol is not heart healthy. To the contrary, it promotes heart disease, the #1 killer on the planet. And there is no such thing as a healthy source of dietary cholesterol because the human body creates all the cholesterol it needs. So let me know what you think about this nonsense in this article that Lauren Gerston has published since 2014. I would love to engage with you guys in regards to this topic. But in the meantime, if you could please do your boy a favor, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, make sure to subscribe so I can keep you updated on the weekly. I'm the Natural Hulkster. I want to thank you for watching, and please stay tuned for the next one.